Merry meet and welcome to Lux Dragon Queen Magic. I am Taylor and today I'm introducing to you a Divine Masculine Collective reading. This is going to be a weekly reading that is going to be paired with on Friday for a Divine Feminine Collective reading. So definitely take either messages how they resonate for you, no matter who or how you identify yourself. You will have both of these energies within you, and it may just give you some insight into how the external world is acting as well. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our Divine Masculine Collective reading. So, we are seeing right off the bat that the Ascended Master is coming out the most right now for our Divine Masculine. So, I do unto others. And then, if you would like to take a screenshot of this, you definitely can. There may be further messages for you. But with that being said, I want to go ahead and just draw into the fact that right now what we're seeing through this card is that the Divine Masculine really is having, it's not funny, I'm sorry, an identity crisis in a sense. So there's a lot of conversation and thoughts around the fact that worldly success isn't all that there is, and the Divine Masculine is picking up on that to re-alter the world. So that's why we see I do unto others. That's actually, and you may have read this already, associated with the golden rule. So you treat others how you would want to be treated. And the Ascended Masters know this best because they essentially are saying, like, do unto others as you would have them. That's the exact same wording. Sorry. My point to this being is that it's just coming in very clearly that anything that you're doing to others is happening to you, and that there seems to be an imbalance in nature occurring with this. So we're seeing the Ascended Master come up for a couple of reasons. The Divine Masculine, this is a message to be more willing to remember those deeper lessons of past lives that you have looked into. I'm hearing Akashic record work could be very important. I'm also hearing scripting as well. So anything that you're working on, writing about, goals that you're setting, maybe just really take a look at what those goals are and if they really align to your highest values, because if they don't, that's why you're not seeing anything come from it. And in addition, if your words are vague or not as direct, in a sense that spirit can interpret it differently, then that may also be why you're not seeing the exact results of what you were expecting, is because you didn't script it out so exactly, and so you're seeing a little bit unexpected but what you asked for. And yes, so ultimately that is what I'm saying from the Ascended Master. It's a lot more about being willing to open yourself up to this identity and saying, yes, I do have a knowledge that is greater than others, and I can benefit the world and set the world more in harmony by sharing these gifts. And so what past life influences are working with our Divine Masculine right now is we have Shiva. So this kind of, honestly, it's almost echoing the exact same thing. So again, you need to step into these past life regressions and understanding. I'm hearing too, a lot of you might be like younger, and that might be like some shadow work to work on, is the fact that like you kind of do know more than those around you who are considered older and wiser. I'm using quotations. And you have this certain level of maturity though that far exceeds them. Also, something to be said is like emotional maturity and intelligence isn't as highly valued right now in the world, and the Divine Masculine is someone who knows a great deal about those. So that also may be a part of where you're seeing this struggle, because there's a little bit of a lack of compassion in the world. And so that's also why we're seeing Shiva come up, because Shiva knows about the forces of destruction and essentially knows how to leave those powers be in order to work with the powers of nature that do support the healing of the collective. Yeah, I'm really just seeing like lately for the Divine Masculine, we're seeing that they have not been very sure of themselves. They've been told, and this could be coming from the distorted masculine. So this may be an internal battle just as much as an external battle. How often do we see, especially in like movies and media, where like a son trying to be what the dad wants, and instead of like what the son, who the son is, and their own greatest potential. So there's a little bit of this like other people's perspective of what it means to be a masculine. A Divine Masculine is coming through, but it's the distorted masculine that is telling you that. So they're turning you into a distorted masculine, and you're sensing that within you to the point where you're like, actually, I do think I know better. I do think I know what I'm doing. And so Spirit is coming through saying like to lean into those energies and ask for help. I'm hearing like you have to surrender. You have to surrender an all-knowing mindset in order to gain a learning mindset. So even though you are so knowledgeable and intelligent and you have so much of the world figured out past those around you, you don't have everything figured out, let alone what you're capable of. And so that's another reason why Spirit is saying like they're not asking you to do the same kind of work that the people around you are doing. They're asking the Divine Masculine instead to open up their eyes and be willing to become a leader. So very, not just a leader, like a teacher. Like there's so many different ways that you can support the realignment in the world. And the Divine Masculine, what we're seeing within this reading is that this is the internally we're seeing that they're kind of waking up to it, even though the external is being so negative about it. So let's go ahead and take a look. We have some hidden truth for us. So I have trouble with intimacy. Well, maybe if I could speak. So right away, we're seeing that come through because how many times do we see like situationships happening and this might be a personal experience, but I do feel that a lot of times women are directed to let the man decide what the relationship looks like. I do think that happens a lot of times for men too sometimes, who like feel pressure to be in a traditional relationship and get married and have kids super fast, and who are like, I'm not going to do that. But then they're like, let me become the playboy instead, and they don't see a middle ground. And so because of that, this issue of intimacy comes up. That's why situationships happen, because you're like, hey, I really like sharing all parts of my soul with you, but not calling it that. And that's essentially just what we're seeing. And that is additional reason why the Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine are needing to bring this balance within themselves so that they can bring balance to each other and therefore the world. So we do have a few more. So we have, I'm not financially stable. Okay, what did I say about like worldly successes being the thing that kind of define, or being the thing that is dragging down how you see yourself as valuable, how you see yourself as supportive to the community. So like right here, I'm seeing like you're dragging on yourself for your emotions, you're dragging on yourself for your financial stability, and you're kind of like, well, what if I don't have these, then what do I have? And Spirit is here saying you have so much more within you. First off, we're seeing an infinite amount of knowledge, right? Infinite lifetimes worth. And Spirit is just simply saying like you could open these books and yeah, I'm hearing, especially if you're within this reading, that the Divine Masculine is starting to understand a lot more about what claircognizant is. And if you yourself have stumbled across this reading and it's really been resonating for you, I would encourage you to think more about that skill and how you may yourself have that ability. Okay, especially because it goes with intelligence. Just coming up again, the fact that this is saying like you're so smart, you do know more than those around you, that is typically a gift associated with claircognizant. Your intellect arouses me. So this is a little dual fold, right? One, reiterating exactly what we just said. Like, who cares if you don't have these other things? One, you're working on intimacy. It's not your fault. There's a distorted masculine that has been, like the culture itself has been against you. And that also goes with I'm not financially stable. That also might just be how you view yourself. Like, I'm hearing maybe you need to do an abundance check and be like, oh, wow, look at that roof over my head. Oh, wow, look at the ground. Or look at the flooring instead of dirt. Look at the blankets that I have around you. Like, do you have more than one blanket? That is pretty amazing, okay? If you have more than like one bath towel or face towel, like those are things that are such modern luxuries that we don't really think about them because as luxuries. We start to think about them as amenities. So anyways, we have one more hidden truth. And we have I am recovering. Oh, I'm sorry. I'd meant to finish your intellect arouses me. Sorry. Let's go back a little bit. So your intellect arouses me is twofold. One, it is again Spirit saying like, look at how smart you are. This is like so exciting on so many levels. Also, I know here it means aroused in a sexual manner, but something to note is it typically can just mean arise, right? So this is a certain energy within you is rising to meet the occasion, okay? And then also, your divine feminine loves you for your intellect. So who cares? Well, we still care about the intimacy. We're not getting away from that. We're healing. And we're healing our views on financial stability. But the point is that your divine feminine will be most attracted to the very essence of you, that is your intellect. So take that how you will. And then, what did I say? I am recovering. So you are still recovering. You are still working through your shadows. You're still doing this. This is just a beginning stage for many divine masculine, especially if you're here. This is just the start. This is just the beginning of an awakening, which typically means you're going to be going through an awakening. I was going to try and put a time frame, but that is different for everyone. You're going to feel, you're like, this is the moment of the awakening, but it doesn't happen overnight. So it's really like a rolling over moment where like multiple times you're like, oh, this is it, I've ascended. And it's just, you're still going to have more to learn. And that's part of what makes you so brilliant, though, is because you always think there's more to learn. I'm just heard some of you might have been like, well, duh, there's always more to learn. Like, not everyone thinks that way. So these are certain things to recognize how you think differently and how does it benefit not just to yourself in supporting yourself, but to the collective in general. All right. So we have some messages from the mermaids about how the divine masculine can bring in more love into their situation. So first we have patience. Right off the bat, after I am recovering, I am like, what did I just get done saying? You are at the beginning. So this is just the start. It is, I just heard from Spirit, it is a gift to have time to heal. And so developing patience as a skill is also accepting the fact that you're recovering, is kind of what I'm hearing. So it's this dual-fold mentality of acceptance, to accept the fact that like you are forming, you are not as fully formed as you would like, and maybe another part, because you are always learning, maybe that's something to think about, is like, will you ever consider yourself fully formed, or will you always be moving? And if that's the case, then why shame or judge yourself for being at the state in transition if you think you'll always be in transition? So kind of just, again, some more shadow work just popping up here for different things to focus on. And then we also have turn away. So this is coming up for those distorted masculines. Who is telling you that you don't know what you're talking about? That's something too. That's a fun exercise you can do as, for claircosmic. I'm so sorry. I'm just like pronouncing it worse and worse as we go on. But anyways, so you can physically turn away from the person who is like hurting you. You can just turn your mind away from those things. Like whenever negative thoughts come up. Ooh, this is. I keep interrupting my own stories. Sorry. Let's go back to the ability. A way to practice and grow this is to say true and false statements that you know, like the sky is blue, the sky is green, and notice how your body feels in between each, and just get a sense of which sense is like flaring up and like telling you like, yeah, of course the sky is blue. And then when you say with such assurance that the sky is green, and that's your intuition going like, we both know you're lying to yourself right now, right? And then that's the feeling you want to get comfortable with, is the feeling of essentially recognizing your own denial. It is going to change your life. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. It's going to make you a lot more honest. And, but also what I'm hearing though, is it's going to help you develop discernment and knowing who and where and like what situations you need to turn away from. So I'm hearing another reason why I'm going into like how to build this up is because I'm hearing from Spirit that for some in here that there are certain opportunities that are coming up that seem like that world success, and Spirit is saying like, that's not meant for you. Turn away from that. Have patience that what is meant for you is coming to you. You are still recovering. You know so much more than this offer. Like I'm hearing like maybe you're being offered an assistant position and you're like, I could run this company. So unless you are like, yes, I want this assistant position so that I can go be a student somewhere else, that's the scenario coming up. That's why like you have to learn discernment and start learning and leaning into your intuition. It's because you're going to start needing to understand the things that still make sense for you within this world, because that's where the struggle is coming from. You're trying to find balance between understanding what worldly success looks like, because we do need it somewhat to survive in this world, right? And then also what you really want in this world, which is harmony and peace and alignment, and how you can achieve both of those. So have patience. You're learning. You're not going to have it right away. Just a fun little thing. Like, I'm not very good with planners. I'm getting better about it. And I was beating myself up about not being able to fill out my planner like to the brim from in the morning and know exactly what it's going to be doing that day. Even if I meditated, it didn't matter. I was still like shaming myself, like, oh, I still had to add things, or like, oh, I have to add this to tomorrow. That's part of life. So that's kind of like the kind of energy to bring in, is like, don't shame yourself for the fact that you're learning how to do something. The fact is that you're doing it, and that's more important. Okay, so lastly, we do have some tarot for you guys to just get some final advice from Spirit, as well as what you can expect moving forward. So yeah, we have the Ace of Swords. So right away, Spirit is saying you are going to be experiencing so many different downloads and ideas, especially if you open up your eyes to these past lives that are available to you, and this knowledge that is available to you. So I'm hearing it's going to be multiple, and it's going to be something to keep in mind is it's not just one idea. It's not just some insight. I am saying like it's going to be significantly a significant amount. And so the reason why you're still seeing the Ace of Swords, even though it's such a large amount of insight and communication coming down to you, it is because you aren't needing to make decisions as much about this. You're not turning to indecision. You're learning to trust discernment. So you're practicing discernment. You're learning to trust your intuition. And that is what this Ace of Swords is telling us, is that you are getting these opportunities, these ideas, and you're learning which ones make sense for you and which ones don't. And then also, oh my goodness, we have the King of Swords. I just feel like this beautifully goes into everything else we were saying. You can take the King of Swords as a representation of you and your energy, and the fact that you also know how to communicate effectively with the external world. So trust in your voice is something I'm hearing very strongly, especially whenever you have an intellectual idea. Chances are you researched it and you know it. Something too, I'm hearing, especially if you have an anxious personality, is a lot of times when it comes to like trusting yourself and intuition, when we're so and you have a lot of intelligence instead, is you want to rely on your intelligence over your intuition. So you will take notes, you'll write down things a lot more often, and you'll be like, I like open note you're like, if I have, okay, you're the kind of student where like if there was an open note test, you would definitely take your notes and refer to them for every question, even though if it was closed book, you would get 100%, because that is how much your knowledge supports you. And something too, another fun practice for intellect and intuition building is, for some things that you don't need to note down, and you're like, why am I even trying to pay attention to this? You can make a communication pattern with Spirit or with yourself, and say like, let me remember this, or remind me when this is important. Because then you essentially are saying, I'm going to trust myself and Spirit that when the time comes, this information will be available to me when I need it. Because that is exactly how your past lives are, right? So as you learn that in just like little tidbits and facts, I guarantee you're going to think you're so good at trivia. You're going to be like, I feel like I'm just watching movies, and all of this information is being retained, because that's you trusting yourself to be able to enjoy the present moment and be able to effectively recall it. Something else I'm hearing, if you have any struggle and you're like, I don't really know about that, something to support your memory of the day is not to jot down everything as you're experiencing it, but just start jotting it down at the end. Or maybe the next morning, if you're like, if whichever practice makes more sense to you, is jotting down about what happened the day before, or jotting down about the current day's activities. But either day, it's a review, and you're not looking at your planner, you're not going back and you're like, what did I do? You're trusting yourself, no matter if it's just bullet points, to put down anything that is of importance to you and what you did that day. And it's going to also start noticing what you really prioritize and what's going to be more important, and it's going to help you become that ascended master, I guarantee it. Okay. Oh, and then lastly, we have the Page of Swords. So I actually thought it was interesting when I was at the Ace of Swords. I was like, I'm surprised this isn't the Page of Swords. Turns out it's because you were getting it anyway. With that being said, so the Page of Swords, I'm seeing you are communicating your ideas so effectively that like you are just, sorry, I am seeing that you essentially, all these communications, because right, I said you're getting so many downloads, so many insights that are coming through. You are getting so many communications, not just from those past lives, not just from your guides and ancestors. I know it's a lot, but you're also going to be getting it from friends and family. Another reason why to build up your intuition and your discernment, something interesting, is to be able to hear lies as they come up. So something very interesting that happens too, as I mentioned earlier, you start recognizing like self-denial, which a lot of people say that's the hardest thing to recognize. So if you start recognizing denial within yourself, you're going to start recognizing denial within others, and also picking up on any lies that they tell, whether they're white lies, whether they're aware of them or not. You just will know the truest part of that statement, because you're going to start being able to see things from a higher perspective because you're getting so much information. I'm hearing it's very much like this research mentality that you're going to be given, like you're not meant to just hear from one source and take that as fact, not even your own lives. You're meant to hear it from multiple sources and decide what parts make sense, and that's the truest part. Because things get, sorry, things do get a little bit twisted, especially throughout history. So things, perceptions, no matter who or what your lives are and the lessons that you learned in those lives, time, culture, so much has changed between then that there is certain modernness that you have to take into account for. And so that's why we're seeing the Page of Swords, because you're getting the downloads. You are the King of Swords, and ironically, being able to be the Page of Swords. See, you have all these books coming at you, but you know the truth book, and you're able to confidently go forward. Wow. Okay. So, my Divine Masculine, this is our collective reading. This is very powerful. I definitely encourage you to try any of the tips and tricks that we put out here today. And even if you just do one thing, it's definitely going to encourage you. I mean, I heard you're a learner, so I would think you're probably interested in doing more than one. But with that being said, I will definitely see you guys next time, and be sure to tune in for the counterpart on Friday. We will be using the same deck, so you may even get to see some of the same cards. Check in with your counterpart. It'll be a good time. With that, blessed be.